Salutations, my Fallout lovers. It is Matty here today, bringing you my Fallout 4 special analysis for the perception stats. So welcome to this special series, a weekly series in which I analyze with you guys everything about each of the special stats that are offered week by week from Bethesda to help you build the ideal character come Fallout 4's launch. Today, we're talking about perception, and based on what Bethesda's given us, it seems it's returned to its roots of the old school Fallout games. Now, let's just dive straight in. The video doesn't get into the stats right away, but rather describes the post-nuclear threats of the wasteland, and although it has nothing to do with the stats, I understand that, I did make an interesting observation that I wanted to point out to you guys. Some viewers were asking what this creature is that's much bigger than the super mutant behemoth. And in answer to that, I believe it's the Queen Mole Rat that we saw in the concept art during Bethesda's E3 conference. Although it's just my guess and it's not confirmed, I do feel it's a safe bet given its size and build. Anyway, let's go on to the stats because that's what we're all here for. The first thing we learn is that VATS is impacted by our perception. The higher your perception, the more accurate in VATS you will be. The reason I'm reiterating what the video said is because in Fallout 3 in New Vegas, perception determined how far away enemies can be detected on the compass. When playing with a high perception, it's possible to sense the enemies before they even come into view. It also impacted your energy weapons, explosives, and lockpick skills. We'll get into perks later, but for now, let's look back at Fallout 1 and 2. Perception was one of the best stats to invest in back then, and Fallout 3 New Vegas kinda ruined that in my opinion. In the older Fallout games, it modified your sequence and range combat among other skills as well, making it so useful to invest in, where in Fallout 3 New Vegas, you could get away with not touching it and just leaving it at 5. Having perception impact both VATS and your overall gun accuracy alone will get players to consider investing in this, but Vault-Tec isn't done there. The video goes on to say that perception will keep you safe during morally ambiguous moments, which as we can see in the video is lockpicking, but some people felt perception also somehow affected your sneak ability. If you paid close attention during the Bethesda E3 conference, you'll know that agility is what affects our sneak. Although it is fairly obvious that perception would not impact such a skill, I felt it was worth mentioning because that's what the video portrayed honestly, and that's what I've seen quite a few people say. The more interesting aspect of our perception stat is that it affects our ability to pickpocket out of all things. The video shows various tiers, I'll say in quotes, and things you can do while pickpocketing. I'm going to assume that when they show the Vault Boy stealing from the weak and innocent targets, that's most likely our basic unarmed NPCs we're stealing from. I mentioned tiers of pickpocketing, and I feel that if you have a higher perception, you'll be able to steal ammo from armed enemies as the video shows. I mean, just think about it for a second. Wouldn't it be cool and even dynamic if you would be able to pick the ammo off your target before attacking him, suddenly turn around, go to shoot you and realize, oh man, I don't have any more bullets on me? It's just a guess, but I feel that's what the video implies. I'm assuming the third tier is the ability to do the psychotic prankster actions, such as placing live bombs in people's pockets. It sounds odd on paper, but it makes sense that if you invest more in your perception, you'll be able to do more and see more benefits. Finally, we get a sneak peek at some of the perks for perception, which is always my favorite part of these special videos, is to get a look at what we're going to be investing our perk points in. These perks happen to be the skills and features that we mentioned earlier. First, they highlight VATS again. Perhaps this is a perk such as Gunslinger, considering he's using a single-handed weapon and being more effective with it. Just a guess. But anyways, moving on, the next we see is Explosive, so now hopefully you understand why it's important to mention what the impact perception had in previous Fallout games. And then finally, we see the return of the Sniper perk, which is absolutely excellent. And last but not least, we get a preview of what the perk chart holds for us in the perception category. I asked on Twitter if anyone recognized any of the perks under the perception section, and although the first one looks familiar, no one could identify them, so I feel this is a batch of new perks again. I feel like the first one may be Thief, a reworked version. The second one looks like the Vault Boy skeet shooting, so perhaps it has to deal with weapon accuracy. And the third one seems to have something or someone held up at gunpoint. Feel free to speculate from there, but that's what I could pick out of those images. What I'd like to point out though is that none of the perks we just covered beforehand were mentioned on this chart in the first three. So if any of those caught your interest, then chances are you're going to have to go further down the perk chart, meaning if you want any of them, you're going to have to put a decent amount of points in. But that concludes my analysis of the perception stat for the Fallout 4 special videos. I'll be sure to be back here next week for you guys to do endurance and then charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. We'll be doing this the whole way through to make sure that we can build the proper character and know as much about these skills and stats as possible. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this special video in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.